যদি সবাই ফিরে যায়, ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা সবাই ফিরে যায়, যদি গহন পথে যাওয়ার কালে কেউ ফিরে না যায়, তবে পথের কাটা তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে, তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে। যদি আলো না ধরে, ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা আলো না ধরে, যদি ঝড় বাদলে আধার রাতে দুয়ার দেয় ঘরে, তবে বজ্রানলে আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে, আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে। একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো রে।
Hi guys, thank you for joining the live stream. I'm back after a long time. Unfortunately, I'm busy with some stuff, but I'll try to come live tonight as well. And we have for the third time with us, veteran journalist and author, actor as well, Mr. Juggi Bhasin. Thanks a lot, sir, for coming on my podcast for the third time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on your show again and again.
And guys, do check out his books, and especially his most recent book on spy warfare. Okay, the stuff we did has been fictionalized, that our government did in order to get the nuclear bomb. Do check that out. Do check that book out. Sir, you recently wrote an article, which is the main topic of our discussion today, called "Why a Major Reset in India-Bangladesh Relations Seems Unlikely." I will try to cast it. I'm using a new browser, so I'm a little confused. I think this is how you do it. Yeah, found it. This is the article. So why, sir? Why is it unlikely right now?
Okay, so let me give you my take on this, and I think this is totally my take. I'm not saying this is a kind of a government line or anything.
Yeah.
Some of the signs which are coming from the new dispensation in Dhaka are pretty good. Tariq Rahman might be actually meaning very well. He's taken some positive steps, by the way, as compared to what Muhammad Yunus was doing some time back. But the fact is, there is a history between India and Bangladesh. And again, this is my opinion, only Sheikh Hasina had the sagacity, she had even the courage, I would say, to circumvent that history and, establish a very good working relationship between New Delhi and Dhaka. Tariq Rahman is still untested. We'll talk about this more in detail, but my short point is, see, he's been exiled in London for quite a bit of time. He's still untested in Bangladesh politics. Yes, he's won this major election. But if you take your mind back, if you remember how Rajiv Gandhi won, he won a major election after his mother was assassinated. There's a lot of sympathy wave. I do feel there was a lot of sympathy wave for Khaleda Zia. And on the backs of that, I think Tariq Rahman has won these elections. Now, how he performs is a different matter altogether. There are a lot of issues between India and Bangladesh. We can talk about it, but I'm not too very sure that it will be so very simple to reset the relationship between India and Bangladesh as it used to be during Sheikh Hasina's time.
Was that the political cost she paid then? Because you are giving her a lot of credit for being friends with India, but then she screwed everything else up. Was she just a bad politician or a power-hungry, crazy person?
See, there were a lot of circumstances. We can all have our opinion about what kind of a person was Sheikh Hasina, but at the end of the day, if we are talking of geopolitics, if you're talking totally from an Indian point of view, well, for the last, she was, I think, almost from 2009, if I'm not mistaken, till 2024, she was the head of state of Bangladesh. So by and large, relationship with India was pretty okay, was pretty good, I would say. So look at it from our point of view. We can disagree, as I said, on what kind of a politician she was. She was good, bad, or whatever. I can understand a lot of the young people in Bangladesh are not very fond of her, but then there are a lot of other people also, especially the minority population, who are pretty comfortable with her. So there are all kinds of opinions about her, but we have to see it from a geopolitical point of view. From that point of view, she was pretty okay as far as we are concerned. So we have to keep that in mind.
Right. And how do you see now Jamaat taking over the entirety of the border areas with West Bengal? My God, the entire border area is won by Jamaat.
Very worrying, very, very worrying. You're absolutely right. And if I'm not mistaken, some of these areas are near the Siliguri corridor. All these, the Jamaat is an extremist faction. But I just wanted to tell you something totally offbeat, totally something different, which might shed a light on your podcast today. Look at what is happening in Iran today. Okay. Yeah. The Ayatollah has been killed, as we all know by now. See, what happens is that there are central figures in the Islamic world where a lot of people took their inspiration from, where they took their cue from. Now that major central figure in Iran is gone now. So it will depend upon how a lot of people with, they will take the cue. So what I'm trying to say is that the Jamaat, thankfully, is not in power. I know they have about 77 seats along with this party alliance. They are, as you said, they are in the border areas. And therefore, that is exactly why I'm saying that it's very early days if we can think that Tariq Rahman can somehow circumvent the Jamaat, because the fact is they can't see eye to eye on practically anything. Even on that the constitutional reforms and that particular issue which had flared up, it has started from there. The good thing is, unlike the past, where if you remember that Khalida Zia, she was the BNP at that time was in league with the Jamaat. Okay. Yeah. This time the split is there because the Jamaat feels, and I think the Jamaat has been egged on by Muhammad Yunus, if you really ask me. They feel that they can actually take over control over Bangladesh. My own view is that their support base is very, very limited even today, though yes, they are in the border areas. As I said, the Hindu minority population certainly would like to see the backs of the Jamaat people. And so there is hope out there. But as I said, it's a very fluid situation in Bangladesh right now. The going ahead is going to be very, very tough. It's not going to be easy for Tariq Rahman. I agree with that. The Jamaat will try and make trouble. But why I gave the Iran example was that these kind of factions, these kind of extreme groups, somebody like a figurehead that they could all rally under, somebody like the Ayatollah, though it has nothing to do with Bangladesh. But what I'm trying to say is that the scope for extremism is diminishing. In the Middle East, it will, and you wait and see. Maybe we can do another podcast on this another day. That slowly Israel will start taking command of a lot of things in the Middle East. That is what is going to happen in the future. And therefore, I think, forget the Middle East, even in South Asia, the extreme elements, they need an inspiration. Where do they get their inspiration from? That's the point. There is no central figure to inspire them. So I'm saying there are both good and bad things which are happening at the same time in Bangladesh.
Sir, I do have some questions on Bangladesh, obviously, but even I was wondering this. Is this one of the first beginnings of the ends of Islamic terrorism? Because let's say some Islamic terrorist sitting in India right now in some village, or some sympathizer who's thinking, I'm not talking about the shrewd ones who are just into Islamic terrorism for money. I'm talking about the true believer. What's going through his head? Which country do I look up to now? Because Saudi Arabia is getting bombed by their other favorite country, Kuwait, Oman. Oman is still a friend. Even Qatar. I thought Qatar used to be a terrorist state. Even they are getting bombed by Iran. So I guess because all of them have been friends with Israel secretly. So if that's what the Islamic terrorist in India sees, then I think all his idols have been broken, right?
I'll tell you the biggest secret which has been revealed in this entire Middle Eastern question. And the biggest secret is that all the GCC countries, almost all of them, they are in league with Israel. It's as simple as this, yeah. I mean, if you don't want to accept the fact, don't accept the fact. They all are in league with Israel. And can I take this opportunity to give you my theory about the Modi visit? And we are straying off the topic, but I'd like to give you my particular interpretation. I do feel that somehow India had a sense what was going to happen in the Middle East. That's my
absolutely.
Yeah. And why did our Prime Minister go there? I'll give you my theory also, because I'm advancing this theory on your podcast first, and hopefully I'll do a separate podcast on this later. My own theory is that wait and see, after some time, Iran is eventually going to capitulate. Take it from me. There's no question about it. If not now, after a few days, few weeks or whatever, there will be a more moderate kind of a government. It might be led by the clergy also. That is a possibility. I'm not ruling that out. But it will be led by a moderate faction which will have cooperation with the Western world.
Absolutely.
So what is going to happen is that if you notice what has happened in Syria, now what is happening in Iran now, what is happening in all these countries, one by one, the extreme elements. And please remember, Iran is was very critical because it was funding both the Hamas and the Hezbollah. Okay. And these were the two of the most extreme paramilitary organizations in the entire Middle East. Now, if in Hindi mein shabd hota hai Sargana, the top leader, the top big man. Now, once the big man is gone, whether we like it or not, leadership plays a big role in all these things. So your question, in the Islamic world, if today there are no big leaders, if you remember the time of Nasrallah and all that the way he was killed and everything. So yes, there will be hardline, true fanatics who will still believe in all these things, but the support base will start dwindling over a period of time, because once the top man goes, and this is what you call decapitation, when you literally chop off the top leadership. This is what has happened in Iran. So the extreme elements need something to inspired by. When there is no inspiration, who's going to inspire them? And I have a feeling that thing might start happening in the Jamaat also after some time. Let's wait and see. These are early days. But the era right now, immediately, of extreme radical Islamism might just be coming to an end. Hopefully.
So that significant leader dying is a double-edged sword, right? Because after all, it can also create a vacuum where an even further radical leader can come take his spot, because there would be no IFSC if Obama had not killed Gaddafi.
Can I tell you something very significant has happened? This war is very significant. This war is, for the first time, I'm not too sure if it has happened before, you are going to win an entire war through air power, which means that now the Americans, the Israelis, countries like these have the capacity, the technological capacity, obviously aided by artificial intelligence, where they can decapitate an entire level of leadership. You're right. This leadership goes, maybe another extreme leadership can arise. But tell me something, what is stopping America and Israel from decapitating that leadership also? The only way that leadership can survive, the extreme leadership, is if they work underground. But you can't run a country. You can run a paramilitary organization. You can run an extremist force underground. But there is no way a country can be run through underground methods. You have to come out in the open. And
because they're used to being in power for such a long time. They don't know the ways of the ragtag army and guerrilla warfare.
No. See, whether you like it or not, the Ayatollah might have been a very charismatic figure for his band of followers and all that. But, people are saying, oh, he's gone underground, he's gone to another city and all that. The truth which is which is coming out is that all the top leadership, including the defense minister, including the army chief of Iran, including the Ayatollah, they were all in this compound. And the Israelis exactly had the coordinates of that compound. And they bombed that compound, and all of them went in the first strike itself. So the point which I'm making is, this is an important point, that it doesn't matter second-tier leadership, third-tier leadership, they can come. But will they survive for long? No way. The Americans
Right,
and
right.
the Israelis are not going to allow this.
Okay. Now coming back to Bangladesh, we can get
Yeah,
back to Middle East anytime you want as well, because this is pretty much connected anyway.
I'll
So
tell you.
the
Yeah,
yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
I'll give you my take on Bangladesh. See,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it's a. Let me give you a bit of a synopsis of the article which I've written, so that will explain what I am thinking is what's happening with Bangladesh. See, I'll give credit to Tariq Rahman that because he's Western educated, he seems to be a moderate. But then, Didn't we have the same impression of Muhammad Yunus initially? I mean, look at Muhammad Yunus. I'm contrasting the two people. Muhammad Yunus was a banker, a person who had made a name in microfinance, a person who was a Nobel laureate, a person who was schooled in the Western way of thinking. And he comes over as the trustee, its advisor, or whatever you want to call it, the designation which he had when he came over Bangladesh after Sheikh Hasina's exit. And what does he do? What is his program? His program is not economic. His program was political, religious program. He made these overtures to Pakistan. He made these overtures to the US, obviously. He went out of the way to antagonize India. It was a political program. It was a religious. He was very comfortable when hardline Islamic groups started rearing their head once again. You would know better than me. You know, this Razakar movement, for instance, that was resurrected by Muhammad Yunus quite literally. You know, and I was going through my research, and this I can't speak Bengali, but you know what they in the universities that war cry, tui ke ami ke razakar ke bolche sairacha to the dictator. You know,
Yeah.
now though Razakars were not only rehabilitated, they were given priority in a certain sense, as if the history of Bangladesh was thanks to the Razakars and not because that they were traitors to the Bangladesh cause.
Yeah.
This is all the doing of Muhammad Yunus. Now, do you think it's possible for Tariq Rahman to undo that entire I think this fellow Muhammad Yunus came in August, if I'm not mistaken, last year. Even those few months which he spent, it's not going to be easy for Tariq Rahman to kind of repeal that legacy. I also believe Tariq Rahman, in his heart of hearts, is probably a nice liberal person. He wants fairly okay relationship with India. He's not very comfortable with this Pakistani approach, you know, reaching out to Pakistan the way Muhammad Yunus was. But he has to run a government. The Jamaat-e-Islami will be snapping on his heels all the time. Then you have the other entity, even though they won only 6 seats. I think the Citizens National Party, or whatever, the Students Party. Those guys are also a bit of a force because they create a lot of trouble, especially for Sheikh Hasina. So all these people are still there, you know. Problems can be created for Tariq Rahman just like this. So right now there is a bit of a sense of hope. There is a sense of sympathy. There is a sense of goodwill for Tariq Rahman. But believe you me, it can vanish away just like this in a day. So he has to tread very, very carefully. Then there are economic issues. If I can, shall I continue with this, or you want to ask about that? I'll tell you about the economic issue.
Yes.
The biggest thing between India and Bangladesh is this textile thing. Okay. And let me not give you this facts and figures, but I'll tell you some very, very basic thing. Initially, when the textile industries of Bangladesh were being set up, the previous governments, they actually went out of the way to help Bangladesh, even at the cost of Indian exporters. I mean, that's the old story which I'm telling you about. Now, it is a fact also, a lot of Indian big exporters in India, they also have had interest. They had holdings in some of the factories in Bangladesh. That business transaction was very good. Cotton and yarn used to go from India to Bangladesh. And of course, you know that the transit route, all the goods used to come to India. Now, what has happened in the last few months is that all that has changed, completely changed. Okay, most of these Indian businesses have snapped their links. They have divested from the Bangladesh story. A lot of the factories in Bangladesh have closed down. Now, The only way there can be a fantastic rapprochement or going back to the good old days between India and Bangladesh would be that India makes concessions to Bangladesh on the textile front. But please remember, India can't do that. And I'll tell you why. Not only because businessmen had diversified, our exporters have found new supply chains and transit routes and everything. And but the other problem is the opposition is waiting for a chance in India that if this government makes concessions to Bangladesh and our exporters start suffering, or if people start getting unemployed in India because of that, they're going to come after the central government. And therefore, there is no going back on the divergence which has happened in the textile trade between India and Bangladesh. I don't see that old thing coming back, that old structure coming back. So that, to my mind, is a very, very big issue, the economic issue. You can give concessions to Bangladesh in terms of maybe Adani was giving electricity. You can give them some concession on the Teesta water sharing pact. That is also coming up. All these things, maybe you can accommodate Bangladesh. But you cannot, I don't think so, on the economic front, you can make an accommodation for Bangladesh. It'll be suicidal. It can't be done now. That's my own feeling. And that is going to be the number one thing which Bangladesh would be looking from India.
Okay. Now, the BJP is also pretty weak at the center now. So they will obviously be on their toes. So, and we have given them concessions, and it did not amount to anything really in our benefit then. Not in our benefit, not in the benefit of the minorities in Bangladesh. So then how can we give concessions anymore? But knowing the vibes that we get from the central government, I think they will do a concession again, and without the consent of the rest of the country.
I'm not too sure. Because there are 2 or 3 big things which are going on right now.
Sir, I'm saying this because otherwise then we push Bangladesh completely into the arms of China, right?
No. Let me explain that.
Yes.
Even more than Bangladesh, because see, Bangladesh is already in the lap of China to some extent. The Americans have a very strong presence in Bangladesh. It's already there. There is nothing it's not something which you can out of the blue completely snatch it away. As I said, the number one worry for the government would be the opposition, which would actually create a big issue if our exporters or if our exports are again impacted by these concessions. And please remember, it's a $120 billion trade in the Western markets. And both Bangladesh and India are competing for the same market. It's not that we are doing something else and they are doing something else. So there is a convergence which is happening, and it's not a happy convergence. So please remember that number one. Number two, let me also explain to you in terms of geopolitics, there is something else which India is looking for, which we got from Sheikh Hasina. See, it was never spelled out openly because India has this way of being very respectful, giving accommodation. Look at, for instance, the Maldives situation. Look at the way that this Maldives fellow was acting up, before he started Get Out Indians and all that. And the same fellow realized that he couldn't survive without India. And therefore, all the way, then all the visits of our top leadership, they went to Maldives, and it was patch up was made and all that. So India's way is not to humiliate the other person, but the fact of the matter is, be very clear, the Indian government is like what America is in between North America and South America, that this is our region. We are the big dadas out here. We are the top guns out here. And therefore, you have to accept our line of thinking. And that is the problem. If Bangladesh thinks that they can now have a rapprochement with India on equal terms, that's not going to happen. Because India will always look to the fact that purely in terms of geopolitics, you will have to kind of listen to what... Today, we have established again a good relationship with Sri Lanka. But how do you think we have done that? Sri Lanka has to understand India's security concerns. If Bangladesh doesn't understand India's security concerns, as you rightly said, vis-a-vis China, vis-a-vis Pakistan, then what is our interest in moving closer to Bangladesh? And as I said, that's why I'm telling you, I told you in the beginning, I'm not too sure Tariq Rahman still has that clout, or he's such a strong leader that he can completely de-link from the Islamist forces and from the Chinese and from the Pakistan. It's not so simple. It's going to take a hell of a lot of effort. I'm not too sure he has it in him.
Aren't you hopeful about the votes that they got from the former Awami League supporters and the minorities, of course?
I'm
Can't
very
they
hopeful.
change it?
That's a good development. I agree with you. I see, because the entire Awami League vote bank, or vote base rather, sorry, the vote base has transferred to the BNP because there was no choice. See, you have
Yeah.
barred the Awami League, to wo
So
vote base
can't
kahan hai?
can't they internally manipulate or handle Tariq Rahman?
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure.
Okay.
See, please remember again, it's see. Okay, let me explain to you in a larger context.
Yes.
At the end of the day, the Hindus are in a minority out there. I don't want to make this too much about Hindu-Muslim thing, but you have to understand the reality out there. The majority population is Muslim out there. There's no question about it. And one of the biggest issues with country after country with majority Muslim populations is in terms of identity. Identity has become very, very important. Now, what has happened is willy-nilly, for some odd reason, the pan-Middle Eastern Islamic identity is an identity which is being embraced by every other Muslim nation. What I mean to say is, like, you go to Kerala, for instance. Now, in Kerala, it's very, very hot, but the ladies wear full burqas and all that, because this is an Islamic ideal from the Middle East. The Islamic dresses. Now, the same kind of Islamic dresses, the same kind of wear which people wear in Pakistan or they wear in the Middle East, they are worn in Bangladesh also. So there is a larger sense of Muslim identity. Therefore, to think that, just because it's Bangladesh, Bengali culture, and Tariq Rahman has made some nice noises that music and all this has to come back into Bangladesh, because Yunus was very, very much against all this, as you know about this. It's not going to be that simple, boss. It's not going to be that simple. See, the Bengali culture in our country, my mind is completely different from the Bengali culture of Bangladesh. Yes. Because there you are running up against a wall of Islamic extremism out there. And these kind of things are not encouraged out there. And it's not going to be easy for Tariq Rahman to shake off all that and say, yeah, it's okay. Now we can go back to and establish and rediscover the commonality of roots of the Bengali cultural roots between Bangladesh and India. It's not going to be that simple here. I don't think so.
And that ship has sailed a lot from West Bengal even. That crowd has kind of changed their mind.
See, whether you get a central figure like Khomeini or not that in the entire Islamic world or not, but the Muslim identity thing has changed completely today. Okay? Today you have a fact of life that even educated, highly qualified young Muslim women, they wear the burqa, or at least they wear, that they believe in that. They completely believe in that. This whole paradigm of wearing Western dresses. Just to give you an example, for instance, Iran. I still remember when I was growing up, my mother had gone to Iran. She was a teacher in a school, and there was this program where the government had sent some teachers to Iran, and she used to tell me fascinating stories that it was even more westernized than Western capitals, because at that time the women used to wear skirts. A lot of women used to smoke and drink.
Yeah, Paris of the Middle East.
Paris of the Middle East. One was Lebanon and the other was Tehran.
Iran.
So that was Iran of the old days. Now that particular identity, even by the way, Afghanistan, you'll be surprised to know there were people, that kind of Western attire and all that. But now the Muslim identity, whether you might accept it or not, has changed completely. So that kind of dress sense, that kind of cultural, it's a kind of a box, I would say, that, we believe in this, we will stick to this. That is a permanent change, I think. That has happened completely. So it's not going to go back. So now you have to keep in mind, in Bangladesh, all these cultural things are there. They have changed completely. And if people have this romantic illusion, we can go back the same kind of cultural roots between India and Bangladesh, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I don't think so. That ship, you're rightly said, has sailed a long time back. Because at the end of the day, we are what we are, also in terms of the larger identity. Even in India, for instance, today people said that there is a Hindu identity. The Sikhs think that there is a Sikh identity. every community is discovering an identity for itself, good or bad or whatever. That's a separate debate altogether. Okay. Now, to expect a community just because the votes have gone in a different way, that they will discard that particular identity and embrace what is called a secular or a liberal identity, that's not going to happen. I don't think so it's going to happen.
That aesthetics and clothes ship has sailed in Bengal in another way, because Bangladesh was not that westernized. Yeah, some classes definitely were at times in some occasions, but the Bangladeshi artists that we looked up to growing up, you could not make them out to be Bangladeshis or Muslims. You could not make them out to be different from any Bengali you saw on the streets of Kolkata. They would look exactly the same. They would wear the sari and Punjabi the same way.
I'll
Every
give you
Bangladeshi looked
the
same as-
example of this lady. This is see, obviously I'm much older than you. So in our generation, when I was growing up, there used to be this lady called Ruma Lela. I think that was her name.
Runa
And
Lela.
she was a singer, and she was a great looker also. And I can tell you one thing: she obviously, I mean, when you looked at her, you couldn't make out she was Indian, Bangladeshi, or whatever. She used to wear saris and all that. And I think half the men in India were actually in love with her. She was so attractive, wonderful voice. So that we are talking of something of a cultural affinity of a different generation altogether. You know, that thing is gone. वो चली गई है वो चीज. It's all vanished now.
Yeah. By the way, sir, I think her name is Runa Lela, not Ruma Lela.
Runa. I'm sorry, not Ruma. Runa Lela.
Yeah.
Runa Lela.
Yeah. Now, sir, my point is, if we don't, in fact, give them concessions, then how are they going to manage it? Because they don't have, I think, industries of their own.
See, I'll tell you what. The style of the present government, central government in India, is very, very interesting. We are prepared to give concession, I'm sure, because Maldives also we have extended. By the way, I don't know if you know about this. I don't know if it is still on, but we were extending a line of credit to Bangladesh of $500 million for defense, upkeeping and all that. I don't know if it's there or not. I'm not too sure. So India will be happy because India, if you can give, let's say, $1 billion or something to Sri Lanka, you extended a line of credit to Maldives, and then, a lot of them keep coming for medical care to India. We all know that story. Yeah. Now, India can give concession in terms of money, in terms of lines of credit. What I'm trying to say is that we can be accommodative, but I'm not too sure we will be flexible on our core interests. And our core interest, as I said, is immigration, number one. Because see, this SIR process, which is complete now, by the way, in West Bengal. And that rests on the back that a lot of the names it's almost, if I'm not mistaken, 16% names have been knocked off in West Bengal's list.
More will go. Lists are going to be updated. More will go.
More will go. A lot of them could be illegals. I think maybe 8% the Supreme Court will take a final call, but it's almost 16%. Now, the point being, a lot of them are illegals from Bangladesh. Okay. Now, how will you compromise on the situation? Are you going to be accommodative and say that, okay, fine, we want to have better relations with Bangladesh, so we will stop this. We will start the SIR process. There will be such a backlash from the core voters of the central government in India that they will start losing elections in different states. They can't do that. So there's no going back on this, pushing back the illegals to Bangladesh or the continuing of the SIR process. This can't stop now. This is, as I said, an irreversible process. We all know Mamata Banerjee obviously was very opposed to all this and all that. But again, even the Supreme Court has rejected all that, So that is one big concession. That's the first part. Number two, you almost share a 4,000 plus kilometer border with Bangladesh. And it has to be fenced. Now, we all know that the Bangladesh Rifles, but I think the new name is something else. It's Bangladesh Guard Bangladesh, Border Guard Bangladesh. The Border Guard Bangladesh creates problems everywhere you do your fencing. Are you going to compromise on that? Because, by the way, that was again a big issue between the old BNP and everything. Number three, granting of these concessions on textiles, transit routes. Khalida Zia was opposed to all this. Let's see what Tariq Ramadan, can you give concessions on all that? I'm not too sure. So on what parameters are you going to give concessions to Bangladesh? Okay. Yeah, sure. You can ask there if you. I believe the army chief, that is this fellow Zama, he is still a little bit favorably inclined towards India, I believe.
Yeah.
But then you have other characters there. I don't know where that fellow is called, Fazlur Rahman. The fellow who made this remark that we should annex the northeastern states of India and make it a part of Greater Bangladesh. There are these kind of idiots and characters who are sitting in Bangladesh. How can you make concessions?
Bangladesh is full of them for some reason.
They're full of them. They're full of these idiots, who are making these statements, and these are very inflammatory statements. So what I mean to say is, I don't see too many places, too many avenues where the Indian government can make concessions to Bangladesh. As I said, monetarily, you can, of course, help them. You can extend a line of credit. You can do all those kind of things. But on core fundamental issues, if the government backtracks, there will be a severe backlash in India. That's the short point which I'm making.
So these are the district-wise breakdowns of how many names have been cut off. Okay. So see, Murshidabad lost 11 lakh and Malda 8.28 lakh.
Malda. I believe Malda is one of the highest. You're right.
Yes.
That's right.
A lot of these names, of these are illegal immigrants, but a lot of them are Bangladeshi not partition refugees, post-71 refugees as well, who have not yet applied for CA or could not apply for CA. And their names also have been cut off. Now they need to get fast-track CA, or else they are saying that.
Yeah, that 8%, the Supreme Court decision will be whether they are allowed or not. So, but by itself, even that 8% is a huge figure, of people who are not going to be on the voters list. So, the short point of this, can we stop all these processes? That's the point we need to discuss. And no surprises, like in their border areas, there is a problem. In West Bengal, in some of these areas, Malda and all these other areas, there is a problem which is developing for us, So my point is, the government, this is now a process, an irreversible process which has started. It cannot stop. That's the short point which because even now the judiciary has got into the act. Now, are you going to go against what the Supreme Court is saying? You can't do these things, It's not possible at all. So where will you give the concessions? I mean, I was thinking about this the other day, that where could India give concession to Tariq Rahman and, try and forge better relations? There are not many areas which are left, And then please remember, then there is talk also of Muhammad Yunus being Muhammad Yunus. He said, Bangladesh is going to acquire Eurofighters. I mean, please understand, these are not simply you might acquire 10, 15 fighter jets or something. A fighter jet in the defense matrix or the defense paradigm, it means it changes the entire theater of things. Sometimes, let's say 20 or 30 advanced fighter jets can alter the course of the relationship between two countries. Because they can look at the damage, for instance, the American fighter jets have caused, for instance, in Iran. So tomorrow, if Bangladesh acquires, let's say, these Eurofighters, assuming, you think India is just going to quietly sit by and say, theek hai. I had another theory. What is to stop if Muhammad Yunus had been there and the relationships were continuing with Pakistan and Bangladesh, that tomorrow Pakistan would transfer some of its nuclear material to Bangladesh? I mean, India can't allow all that, There are legitimate, very hard security concerns which we had vis-a-vis Bangladesh. So we have to assert a right in that entire region and say that you can't do this. We are the bigger country. We are the superior power in this entire subcontinent. And whether we like it or not, the Americans have something called the Monroe Doctrine, by the way, okay? Which means that they established that South America, whether you like it or not, this is our sphere of influence. Similarly, we don't have anything like the Monroe Doctrine, but we certainly have what is called a sphere of influence, where Bangladesh comes into it, Sri Lanka comes into it, Maldives comes into it, even Nepal comes into it. And the only outlier, obviously, is Pakistan. And that is why we have problems with Pakistan all the time. So
Now, sir,
please keep it. The
yes, sir, go ahead.
geostrategic things are very, very complex. They cannot be sorted out just by jaffies and puppies, as we call it in Delhi.
Aman ki Asha.
Aman ki
So
asha.
the 2001 BNP, which was pretty Islamist, why won't this BNP be as Islamist as that? Now, there might be two reasons. One is what you pointed out, that Tariq Rahman has a Western liberal education, or it simply might be because he's intelligent enough to realize that do not screw with the big, gigantic neighbor. Now, which of these two is the bigger reason, do you think? Or versus how much is the chance of BNP now getting back to that old BNP?
See, I do believe that I could be wrong, that Tariq Rahman is a slightly different entity from his mother. Okay, please remember, Khalida Zia's history was a very traumatic history also. Okay, but maybe the son hasn't gone through those kind of traumas. He's had a different education. He's had a different upbringing, so it's a little different for him. At the same time, he has to be cognizant of the realities in Bangladesh also. Muhammad Yunus, I'm just giving an example. Muhammad Yunus came with a premeditated, predetermined agenda. And it was shocking because, as I said, he was supposed to be the so-called liberal economist, this Nobel laureate, etc., and all that. And we all know it turned out to be bumkum. You know, he was at heart a hardline Islamist radical, if you ask me. But he came with an agenda which probably was set, I think, in a Western capital. Okay. Tariq Rahman, at the face of it, doesn't appear to be so. In any case, if Tariq Rahman tomorrow completely makes his party again into some kind of a cheering boy party for the Islamist radicals, I don't think so his heart would be there in the first place. It doesn't appear so. But as I said, he might not be able to make a clean break or departure from the Islamic part of Bangladesh also. So your question whether the BNP can revert to its Islamic past, it could, but the world is changing very, very fast. We have seen the development. That's why I give the example of Iran, the Middle East, and all that. It will not pay to revert back to hardline Islamic fringe, because at the end of the day, even the Western nations are going to be uncomfortable with it. Right now, the Western nations could maybe exploit some of these things. That's why I said Muhammad Yunus came here with a certain agenda, maybe inspired from somebody in the Western world. But it can't be sustained over a long period of time. And look at the way then America goes after the Islamic radicals in the Middle East. It just wipes them out completely. So Tariq Rahman, I think, is a fairly intelligent man. He's 60 years old. He's not some young chap who doesn't understand things. He knows all this very, very well. So he will, I think, try and keep some kind of a middle path. That's my own feeling. And he will certainly try and do a comeback from this closeness that was developing between Pakistan and Bangladesh. I am not too sure he's very comfortable with that.
Now, yeah, go ahead.
Because the other thing is, because Pakistan also has a big problem. Look at the way the relationship has deteriorated between Pakistan and Afghanistan. When Pakistan created the Taliban, they thought they could control the Taliban. Okay, and the Taliban then turned out to have a mind of their own. Now, this is the problem with Pakistan. There has always been a problem with Pakistan. What Tariq Rahman understands is that maybe there are certain Islamist forces within Bangladesh, and Pakistan would try and manipulate them. So it is like a proxy government of Pakistan which runs in Bangladesh. He understands that very well. And that is why I don't think so he's going to be very comfortable in having this, the closeness that was during Muhammad Yunus' time between all these visits which are happening between Pakistani generals who are coming to Bangladesh, etc., and all that. I don't think so Tariq Rahman is going to encourage that. He in fact will reverse some of that particular momentum. That he will certainly do. But whether he can completely get the Islamic element out of Bangladesh, I don't think so that's possible.
I don't see that as well, because the Islamic elements
One
are.
last thing.
Yes, yes,
One
yes, yes,
last.
go ahead.
Also, please remember that the Islamic radicalism, to that extent, will be between two polar opposite communities in Bangladesh. It will either be with highly educated students, because they think it's like the Iran thing. When the Shah of Iran was overthrown, then who are the people who created all these ayatollahs and brought the clergy into power? It was the students. It was a students' revolution in Iran at that point in time. Similarly, the students is one community who would take up the Islamist cause, and the other are the very, very poor folk in Bangladesh who will probably go for the Islamist cause. But the educated middle classes, I'm not too sure they would be very happy with this entire Islamism in Bangladesh, which is happening now. Yeah.
Now, sir, the numbers are really too high. The numbers of Islamists who actually believe in killing all non-Muslims, that number is pretty high, and as evident from the rise of Jamaat in all the places. So the only way they can quash these movements, or let's say eliminate them or handle them in any way, seems to be in Bangladesh. The only way they can come up with is shoot them in the protests. Why can't they come up with anything else? Why is India so much better at this than them?
Why is India so much
Better than them at this?
See, we also see in we are
Because
what
shooting
is
at protesters is always going to escalate, no matter how
this is
unjustified the
what
protest.
see, that is not going to work for you, because this is what Sheikh Hasina tried initially. There were these student protests which have been going on for a long time. But yeah, by the way, I have to tell you something very interesting. When the student protests were going on in Bangladesh, it appeared that every second person was against Sheikh Hasina. And then
Yes.
these students, they formed their own party, this whatever it's called, Citizen National Party, or whatever it's called. And
Yeah.
guess how many number of seats they got in the 300 assembly in Bangladesh? Only 6 seats, which actually tells you that their support base is very, very small. People think, oh, they were all over Bangladesh. Everybody was like converted to their cause. It's only 6 seats. So that's what I'm saying. Sometimes when you want to kill a movement, you don't have to shoot them, or you don't have to intimidate them, or strong arm tactics. It's a question of, as I said, deft policies. It's a question of how you put down extremism. Why I am not too sure about Tariq Rahman being able to do that? Because he's very untested. He's very, very raw. Let him maybe settle down, maybe come to grips with what's going on in Bangladesh, then maybe he can do it in the long run. But it's not going to happen in a day. Because right now what has happened is that Islamic strain is very much there in Bangladesh. It's going to take a little bit of time before all that settles down. But you can only defeat this. See, not every country can behave the way America does, because America has a technology. They have the firepower. They can do anything they want, any part of the world, right?
Yeah.
But not everybody country can do that. So sometimes when you have a problem in your own country, then you have to deal with the problem in a very more nuanced and a very more subtle manner. I think that is what is probably what Bangladesh really needs. Yes, long term, I think Tariq Rahman realizes this. I'm whatever reading which I can make out of this man is that he would like a more a more restrained, a more liberal is probably not the right word, a secular government where the Hindus are also part of the government. He would like that, I think. That's my, because see, there's something which is working to his advantage right now, good or bad. All parties, including BNP, all parties have made Sheikh Hasina as this big monster who is, being given refuge in India. Okay. Now, which means that the BNP can now lay claim over the entire Awami League base. So why will they let go of that base by resorting to very hardline measures? So right now, maybe the Hindus in Bangladesh feel, yeah, okay, we might have a chance with the BNP. Tariq Rahman is making all the right noises. So why would Tariq Rahman also risk all that by embracing very, very hardline Islamic, rules and tenets? He won't do that. That's the point which I'm making. It's wait and watch. Even India will have to wait and watch vis-a-vis Bangladesh. Once the things settle down, if Tariq Rahman is able to control all this, then maybe step by step. In the meanwhile, what we can start doing with Bangladesh, as I said, we can start extending lines of credit. We can give them loans. We can, the Adanis were giving subsidized electricity to Bangladesh. those kind of things can start happening. But on certain key parameters, they can't be. I don't think so. We can give major concessions.
Now, Jamaat is not going to take all these things quietly, of course,
No, no, they
and sit
won't.
down. Now,
No, they
they
won't.
are not going to wait for Tariq Rahman to settle down as well. The moment they whiff any pro-India or pro-Hindu activity, they are going to create the same kinds of protests, or they'll just
And
conjure up an excuse to do that. What is then Tariq Rahman going to do other than shoot at protesters when those kinds of protests happen again?
I'm not too sure. Yeah, that's such a great idea. See,
Yeah,
let's see.
exactly.
We will see how it evolves. How this
Hmm.
whole thing kind of, what happens, how it progresses in the future.
Hmm.
Um, the Jamaat is out to make trouble. There's no question about it, because right now
Yeah.
the Jamaat and the Pakistanis are completely in league. These are actually
Hmm.
the Jamaat. They are actually the Razakars, if you ask me, in a certain sense.
Hmm.
It is.
Yeah.
This is another name for the same set of people.
Yes.
So yes, you're right. They will create. As I said, that is what I'm saying. The real test of Tariq Rahman, his skills will be how he deals with the Jamaat, also how he deals with the students. And I think another way to do that would be that he kind of discredits the Jamaat over a period of time. That will be his real skills as a politician. If he can discredit the Jamaat, see, throughout Bangladesh's history, the Jamaat has always been making noises, okay? But they've always come up short. But yes, I agree, in a 300 or 307, I think that's the number in their parliament. 77 seats is not a very big number, but it is not a very small number either. It's a number which can create problems.
Yes.
So he has to be careful, but at the same time, there is no need for him to get intimidated also, because he does have a 2/3 majority in Bangladesh parliament, which is a
Hmm.
great thing. So as I said, he doesn't need to resort to, as you said, shoot at sight orders and all that. Let's see first what kind of problems which the Jamaat creates for him and how he responds to that. I think then that's a topic for another day. We'll have to wait and see how Tariq Rahman starts dealing with all these problems. But yes, I agree with you. These problems are sooner rather than later, they're going to come his way. No question about it.
Discrediting Jamaat involves therefore you playing the role of an Islamist harder than Jamaat, right?
Yeah. But don't forget one more thing. Why do you think Tariq Rahman was in London in the first place? See, because he was literally in exile from Sheikh Hasina. And at that time, because the BNP was in alliance with the Jamaat. And
Yeah.
also there was this, I don't know how far this is true, but there was this, it's not a theory, but it might have been a reality also, that the BNP at that time was encouraging all the insurgencies in the northeastern states, especially for Alpha and the NSCN, that is for the Nagaland, that socialist NSCN, the extremist outfit. So the BNP at that time was being accused that they are aiding these insurgencies, and I think as part of this understanding with Sheikh Hasina of India and Sheikh Hasina, that the Tariq Rahman was in exile. So there is a past. Please don't forget the BNP also has a past. And today, if we expect the BNP to completely change, and emerge as this party which is going to be delighted at the name of India, it's not going to happen like that. Yeah? Not
Yeah.
possible. There's a certain
Yeah.
past of all these parties in Bangladesh.
Now, sir, excuse me. Mohammad Yunus, what a character, what a career trajectory. His parents must be so proud about him, right? He makes up a bank, wins the Nobel Prize, steals everybody's money, then becomes the head of state and leaves and destroys the country in 5 months. Uh, shouldn't people look up to this man for a career trajectory? And what I want you to psychoanalyze these people. What was going through his mind for all these last 20 years? What did he want to do with Bangladesh? What was it? What was the point of all this?
I'll tell you my reading on this. I'm sure there are some very good NGOs which are doing excellent work all over the world. But I intrinsically don't trust a lot of these NGOs. And Muhammad Yunus, at the end of the day, was heading an NGO, if you remember. Okay, the Grameen Bank was it all started as an NGO. The problem with these NGOs and the people who are heading them is they all come with hidden agendas. Now, those hidden agendas could be maybe, a lot of the funding, a lot of the ideology comes from Western capital. So they all come with a certain agenda. The problem with this Muhammad Yunus fellow was that the whole world, especially a lot of people in India also, by the way, a lot of people in India, especially from your state, from West Bengal, everybody was gung-ho about Muhammad Yunus. Arey, what a suave, learned man, intellectual, economist, and Grameen Bank, microfinance, Nobel laureate, blah, blah, blah. The best thing which has happened to Bangladesh, India should make him reach out to him and all that. The guy was in reality an Islamic hardliner. That is what Muhammad Yunus really was. And if you think he was something else, then you are completely mistaken. Everything else was a facade. If you can encourage the killings of innocent Hindus in Bangladesh and then pretend and say, oh, no killing has happened. This is what he was doing actually. Journalists were telling him that these people have been killed, this person has been killed. Nothing has happened. These are just some rivalries or something which are going on between people that happen all the time. This is the kind of rubbish he was talking. So he was actually, I think, in a way, tacitly encouraging all this stuff which was going on in Bangladesh. So to my mind, he was a closet Islamic radical. His politics also, and the funny thing and the irony, look at the irony. He's supposed to be an economist. He's supposed to be the person who will pull Bangladesh out. And he was the person who has crashed Bangladesh booming textile exports. It's thanks to this fellow. Factories after factories they are closing in Bangladesh. The entire textile industry has gone in a spin in Bangladesh. It's all thanks to Muhammad Yunus. See, when history is rewritten about Muhammad Yunus, then people really understand what this character was all about. But as I said, beware the man who wears a very nice kurta and a bandi and who pretends to be an intellectual and who walks in and you think, what a character, what a guy. These are the most dangerous fellows, and Muhammad Yunus was one of them.
Now, sir, Muhammad Yunus, being a Islamist hardliner in his personal life, does raise some questions because he has a Christian wife and a lesbian Christian daughter or half Christian daughter. How does that work then? Does he make concessions for his family? Friends and family discount in Islamism?
I frankly don't know much about his personal life, but that's okay. I wouldn't give too much credence to all that. Anybody's personal life is their personal life. I wouldn't be too worried about that.
But if he was a radical Islamist, he wouldn't do those things, no?
But that is exactly my point, na. See, they wear one face in public. Their private lives are a totally different matter. All these NGO fellows, by the way, most of them, they live in the lap of luxury. They travel business class. They are having their canopies and their champagnes and the cocktail circuits in the Western capitals. I mean, it's give me a break. And then they're talking about poverty levels in your country. There's no democracy in your country. There's no freedom in the press, freedom in your country, and all that's rubbish, which keep going on and on. See, everybody's paid. Everybody's on a retainer basis, literally. They're paid monies, to peddle this kind of narrative. So Muhammad Yunus was no different. He was the top dog of these kind of characters, if you ask me. So what happens in somebody's personal life is a contradiction to the public persona. That's always been the case with such people throughout history. They will say one thing in public, but their personal lives are totally different. So that's the way it is. And if somebody thinks that these people are, they are saintly, or they are people who are, who come with a certain vision and all that. I mean, you're right. Look into their personal lives and you will understand what these people are all about.
I've read some Bangladeshi common people writing this on Facebook in Bengali that in a way, thank God Yunus came and came to power for a few months, because otherwise we would go on for another 20-30 decades just debating that why are we such a stupid country and we are not we are not putting up the most educated of our lot into power. Well, now we know even that won't matter. We did put one, and he did not work out at all, and in fact harmed the country. So we know that
And
just education won't work.
also, don't forget, even before these elections were announced, he was forced to announce these elections. Till the end, he was trying to derail these elections.
Yes.
Till the very
Yeah.
end, this is what he was trying to do. He wanted to
Mm.
stay in power in perpetuity. And the day the election
Yeah.
results came, and the day the BNP refused that we will not take part in this constitutional reform process or whatever Muhammad Yunus had advocated, he knew the game was up. He took the first flight out, he's gone. So अब देखते हैं कब वापस आएगा नहीं आएगा मुझे नहीं, I don't think so he's going to come back. But if he, even if he does come back, the point is his that stint is over. And as I said, beware all these sanctimonious characters, who peddle this shot of the rooftops that I'm doing this for my country and this and liberalism and that and that. But what they do in real life is, we all know.
Now, sir, what a track record for the Nobel Prize as well. We have Muhammad Yunus, we have two economists, both of them from my state, who are Nobel-winning economists, but our state's economy is in the dumps. And one of them says that Mamata Banerjee would make a great prime minister. He's great friends with Mamata. And the other one is kind of declaredly anti-BJP, but sets up an economics research lab in Yogi Adityanath's UP. And then we have Barack Obama's Nobel Prize, which was given to him, I think, just for being black. And then after winning the Nobel Peace Prize, he does all sorts of anti-peace stuff in the Middle East, destroys Libya. And after his actions in Libya, you actually have slave trade today in Libya, on the streets of Libya, because people just can't be anything other than slaves. Meanwhile, all his supporters are fighting racism inside America. So what's the point of the Nobel Prize today, or at least the Nobel Peace Prize? If you force me to be respectful to developmental economists, I would stick to Nobel Peace Prize. But if not, what's the point of the economics Nobel as well?
Listen, I'm not going to comment too much on your state, boss, because I don't want to get into trouble. I'll keep my mouth shut. Because तुम्हारे politics are very, very polarizing in West Bengal, so I'm just keeping my mouth shut. I respect all parties. All parties are my friends, so I'm not going to comment on that at all. But yes, your short point, I agree with you. See, whoever thinks that just getting the Nobel is your is a ticket to that you are some kind of anointed saint or anything, or you have a recipe for addressing poverty or addressing the endemic problems of the world. I'm sorry, I don't believe in that. We all know even the Nobel actually is a politicized prize. And that's the real story. It's given to a certain kind of people who are in conjunction with the ideology of these people. They will follow the agendas of these people. We all know that. There was this this famous comparison which was made a long time back. If you remember, in the old days, the Egyptian president Sadat and the Israeli prime minister, what was his name? The guy who was, the Palestinians used to hate that guy. They were jointly given a Nobel Peace Prize in the old days. So, the Nobel Peace, the Rabin, I think, Yitzhak Rabin, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So, my short point is that you should discount this Nobel Peace Prize thing by whatever. The people who are given these prizes, forget about the people who get it for science and technology. I'm sure most of them are very deserving. But this Nobel Peace Prize is a very, very contested. It's given to certain people. And not only the Nobel, the other prizes that Magsaysay, I don't know how you pronounce it, Magsaysay Prize. The Magsaysay. The Magsaysay Prize is also given to people who are in alignment with your line of thinking. A lot of these people are troublemakers. We have our own Magsaysay award winners in Delhi, Mr. Kejriwal, who's now on a comeback. So take all this with not a pinch of salt, but a handful of salt, the true worth of these prizes, because the characters who win this are really characters by themselves. They are not. I'm sorry.
No. Finish your thought.
No. I'm just saying they're characters by themselves. They are not. They are people who will go to any length or to any degree to carry out the agendas of people who actually put them up and make them grow in the first place.
Do you have any more or less respect for the Booker Prize?
For the
Booker Prize.
See, Booker Prize also, look, see, a lot of the prizes, whether in India, whether in abroad or in India, you can even actually count the Pulitzer also to that extent.
Exactly.
I'm not saying that the Booker Prize and the Pulitzer Prize are, but the fact is, in all these prizes, there is a certain liberal element which is always there, which is not comfortable at all with the conservative point of view. This is a fact of life, and they are all there in the committees. They are all there in the agendas. These agendas are followed by, and it's this, to that extent, the liberal lot. Forget the prizes, yeah. Prizes तो still is a long way off. तुम्हारे जो festivals होते हैं, तुम्हारे literary festivals होते हैं, तुम्हारे कोलकाता में भी एक literary festival होता है, तुम्हारा दिल्ली में होता है, तुम्हारा जयपुर में होता है. I mean, all these festivals are also run, by the liberal lot actually. I don't see too many of these conservative, right at the center voices in all these festivals. This is just, it's a aside which I would take off, which I'm telling you, but it's a fact of life. So it's like, and that applies to the media also to that extent. Even today, there are people who are irrespective of whatever. I mean, look at what's happening today. This fellow Khomeini has died. He's been killed. And there are all kinds of liberal voices which are saying that what a great man he was. He stood up to Trump. He stood up to the United States and all that, realizing what Khomeini really was, And one of my friends who actually तुम्हारे state से है, Saira Shah Ali. She's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
So she was also saying Khomeini is gone. ये क्या हुआ? So anyway, I want to have a debate with Saira कि ऐसे नहीं होता है यार. Please understand who Khomeini really was.
Yeah.
But anyway, these are disagreements which I have with friends. That doesn't mean we can agree to disagree on a lot of things.
Yeah, she seems to be kind of well-meaning because she engages in a lot of debate with right-wingers.
No, Saira is she's a very nice person. I am really fond of her because she actually, this is on a personal note, she introduced my books in Kolkata, by the way, when my first book was launched, The Terrorist. So she not only anchored the event, she invited a lot of your celebrities to that particular this thing. So I can never forget. I'll always be indebted to Saira. So Saira, if you're listening to this show, you're still my very, very good friend. Even though we have political differences, obviously, because she's and she explained to me once. She says, "Listen, Juggi, I'm not really a hardcore communist. I am more some middle person, who has left views, but I'm not some kind of hardcore communist or anything." But so the short point being, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of liberals who, and it's not that all liberals are bad people or anything of that. So nothing. In fact, most of my friends are liberal people only, to be very honest with you. Yes, we have disagreements. We can disagree. But yeah, sure. As long as we can agree to disagree and still walk away as friends, that's good enough for me. That's the way I look at it.
I, in fact, know of some Bengali Hindu right-wingers who ended up voting for her just because they found her so attractive, which is hilarious, but that's how it operates.
No, she's a very nice person. She's a very nice person. Her husband is a very respected doctor and everything. They come from very eminent family. I've spoken to her father also.
Her brother is also a doctor, right?
Huh?
Her brother is also a doctor, right?
I don't. No. Brother was in the army. Yeah.
She's the daughter-in-law of the former speaker.
The other brother is somebody. I interacted with him. He's in Gurgaon somewhere.
Is she the daughter or the daughter-in-law of the former Bengal Assembly speaker?
Daughter-in-law. You're right. She is Fouad's. That was Fouad's father, if I'm not mistaken.
Fouad, right. Fouad is the doctor. Right. Yeah, Fouad is
her dad is a very well-respected, very well-known general in the army. So yeah, and then she's obviously related to Nasiruddin Shah. I don't know if you know that.
I see.
Because her father and Nasiruddin Shah, they are brothers.
Oh, acha. I see.
So
Uh,
all in all, I have a lot of respect for her, fond of her. She's a very nice
hmm,
person, I think. So yeah, chalo,
hmm.
let's leave it at that. Or कोई
Yeah,
बात करते हैं. Yeah.
yeah. Now, sir, see, when people misuse their power, it has such far-reaching and long-lasting repercussions that when the leftists, most of them are not really liberals even, when they started these literature festivals and then they degenerated into everything other than literature and discussed politics and preached leftist ideas to the entire country. Now, when a right-winger makes a literature festival of his own, it's only so that they can bring Jai Deepak, Sunny Sanyal, people like that, and discuss how we have not been taught the awesome things in our history, etc. There's no literature festival going on. It's just a speaking convention. That's what the liberals or the leftists have brought down the idea of literature to.
See, I'll partly agree with you. I'll tell you there are of course a lot of problems with the liberal lot. We have talked about that already, but there is a problem
Hmm.
with the right wing also. I'm being honest with
Hmm.
you. We are talking
Yeah.
honestly out.
Hmm.
Um, there are, and I won't name them. Some right wing outfits have started what are called literary, not festivals, but they have started these literary, where a lot of people gather together to discuss either defense or security or
Hmm.
social and how our society is evolving, all those issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are two basic problems out there. One is there is no temperance in language, which I don't like. What do I mean by that? That they become very offensive. And
Hmm.
especially they talk derogatory about women, which I don't like at all. I have this
Hmm.
complaint that their hearts might be in the right place. They could be thinking the right things. They are definitely nationalists. They care for the country, and all that is fine.
Hmm.
But if you speak in a derogatory way about women, or if you start making cheap jokes about
Yeah.
even, I let me give an example. I might disagree with the politics of, let's say, Mr. Kejriwal. I might disagree with the politics of Mr. Rahul Gandhi. I might. But that doesn't mean I start talking cheaply about them. That is not right.
Hmm. Hmm.
We still have to maintain respect in our discourse. We have to
Hmm.
use the right words, the right language. The problem with what I find right of the center is not everyone, but some people, they
Yeah.
suddenly start making these funny jokes, and
Hmm.
it's very juvenile here.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
That's my grouse. The liberals, of course, I told you the problem. The liberals are, of course, they manipulate, they do all these things. They will only allow their own kind of people in their setup. So that's their problem, which we know.
Hmm.
But the
Yeah.
right wing also has a problem, and therefore
Hmm.
that's why I'm saying I still don't see too many genuine centrist platforms in our country, even today. Even
Hmm.
today, they are lacking.
I think the majority of the right wing does not realize how big of a weapon simply erudition is. With just that, you can win so many words.
I
Now,
agree.
sir, the
See,
last. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Just one point here. You're absolutely. That's a very
Hmm.
lovely word which you have used. Erudition. You have to be erudite. You have to be knowledgeable. You have to
Hmm.
know your subject, and you
Hmm.
have to impress people with your erudition, not by making cheap jokes. This
Yeah.
is what a lot of people are doing, and I don't like it at all. That for me
Hmm.
is something which I really detest and I hate.
Hmm. Now, so the last
Yeah.
question for you is I am a Bengali sitting in Bengal. I have always known that Bangladesh is an awesome place, and somehow it's almost like we Bengali Hindus of Bengal are being held against our will into India. Bangladesh is so awesome a place that we would like to go there and live there. I don't know why we are not there, etc. And for Pakistan, we always knew that, yeah, bad terrorism and awesome music. What did you as a Punjabi think of Pakistan growing up and Bangladesh growing up? Because it never even came to my mind. What do the non-Bengalis think about Bangladesh?
Give me 2 minutes. I'll give you very interesting takes, and I'll give you some interesting examples. I won't name the person, but there was this very close friend of ours. He was the head for Pepsi in Bangladesh. They were staying in Dhaka, and they were staying in, then both the husband and wife, they were staying in, they have this colony for expats. I'm forgetting the name of that colony. And he used to tell me,
Gulshan.
uh, यार मुझे नाम नहीं याद आ रहा. I don't remember the name
Okay.
now very well, but a long
Okay.
time back. And he used to tell me that it was like a kind of a lifestyle which you can't even imagine. We used to have these parties every day, the most wonderful intelligent, socialites, all kinds of people used to come for these parties. He says, we really had a rocking time in Dhaka, in that particular colony. So I agree with that. So there are parts of Bangladesh, there are parts of Dhaka which are absolutely fantastic. The lifestyle is great. I'm not too sure if the same thing applies for the rest of the country, because the country is struggling at the end of the day. Okay. Now, Pakistan, the same story actually is true. A lot of people who go from here and they are full of these raptures of Pakistani hospitality. अरे यार, वो तो हम उनके लाहौर में जाते हैं, वहां पर उनके शॉप में चले जाओ, चिकन विकन खा रहे हैं, हमसे पैसे भी नहीं लेते. This is the common story which you keep hearing from every second, third person. Fine, wonderful. Yeah. They treat us very well when we go to these literary festivals. We are always given importance and everything. Why can't we have, as you said, Aman ki Asha? Why can't you have this approach with Pakistan and all that? Okay, that's fine. But what about that other Pakistani, which a lot of them are almost a majority, who's planning the next kill in India, who's planning the next terrorist attack, who's planning the next bomb blast at Red Fort? What about that fellow? Did you meet that fellow? He's not going to meet you. He's operating in the shadows. You just met some of the more colorful personalities, both in Lahore as well as in Dhaka. You met all these places. But for the rest of the country, boss, please go and do a sample size of what the other people are thinking. Okay? So that's the problem with both Pakistan and Bangladesh. That there are certain pockets which are, you're absolutely right, they're very fascinating. They're very attractive. But there are large segments, there are people out there who are very, very ill-disposed to India. If you take your eyes off the ball, then you will get into a problem. And this entire blinkered thing which people have, oh, these are such wonderful people, why can't we have more closer relations? That's only some part of it, a very microscopic part of it. The rest of it is not a very good picture.
Did you have those blinkers on until your young adult days and adolescence days as well?
I never had. I honestly never had. In my case, what had happened was, because I told you I used to be in television news and Doordarshan news. So I used to go to Kashmir very frequently. And I have seen the insurgency there at close quarters. So I knew the meddlesome games which Pakistan was playing. I'm talking of the late 80s, 90s. So I had a very good awareness of all this. This is what Pakistan is all about. This is what they are doing in Kashmir. So I didn't have any blinkers. Never. I was absolutely very clear what Pakistan is all about.
I see. And what did you think of Bangladesh in your young days?
See, I'll be honest, I haven't been to Bangladesh. I haven't, but I do have a lot of interest in Bangladesh. I keep studying it from the outside. And as I said, see, Bangladesh, the way it should have evolved, because Bangladesh got a second chance after after the creation. But then I personally feel they haven't fully taken it. They still, in a very strange way, there's a part of them which hates what Pakistan has done to them, but there's a part of them which still loves that Pakistan of old. It's a very schizophrenic kind of a relationship they have with Pakistan. So they haven't let go of that Pakistani past at all. There is some, and look at the racism of the Pakistanis. There are videos and videos I have seen where these Pakistanis saying, oh, because Pakistanis think of themselves as these very fair people. So they say, oh, we go to Bangladesh, we have a nice time. You know what I'm talking about. Nice time there. They're all dark out there. Pakistanis can be very racist. When they have this kind of a feeling for you, even then you are craving that you should get their attention. I mean, I don't understand this here. It's so stupid actually, if you ask me.
Yeah. This is what happens when you go out of India. So they essentially have mommy issues and daddy issues, and therefore they are not getting solved ever. So thank you, sir, for coming on my podcast, and we'll see you soon. Maybe to discuss Bengal elections and hopefully
we'll do another program on Bengal election. That'll be fun.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys, for joining. See you. Bye-bye.
যদি সবাই ফিরে যায় ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা সবাই ফিরে যায় যদি গহন পথে যাওয়ার কালে কেউ ফিরে না যায় তবে পথের কাটা তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি আলো না ধরে ওরে ওরে ও আলো না ধরে যদি ঝড় বাদলে আধার রাতে দুয়ার দেয় ঘরে তবে বজ্রানলে আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো